Welcome to Woman Unzipped, a podcast featuring women who share their lives truthfully, vulnerably, and powerfully with moi, LeahRose. I believe that sharing your stories gives you access to transformation, and that when you step into your life with commitment, everything is possible. Join me for stories and shares with women from all walks of life, careers, and lifestyles. Welcome. Welcome to Woman Unzipped. Yes.
Yay.
Oh my goodness. I have the pleasure of welcoming Emma Abata, Dr. Emma, the pleasure revolutionary, to the show today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Seriously, I do not pull out the red Cardi B fur coat for just anybody.
Yes. I know she showed up in her coat and I'm like, oh, I got my coat. Hang on. Let's, And
It's a fur coat Saturday.
exactly. And we met through Julia Wells too, who
Yes.
is a friend and coach and mentor and just amazing
Pussy
all
base
around
boss.
person. Yes, pussy base boss. So shout out to you, Julia. Thanks for this connection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're a doctor.
I am.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I got my PhD in human sexuality back in 2015, actually in San Francisco. At the Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality, this very specific little school in San Francisco. And yeah, I've been on this path of human sexuality for a little while, and I was a professor, and I've done, I wear this coat to class actually a lot.
I love it.
Yeah, I was like, you all need to just see people being a little bit different, especially in university settings, and academia can be so like straight-laced and stuffy, and like, I'm a professor. And so
right.
I was a different type of pussy-based professor, we could say.
Ooh.
And yeah, I kind of thought I was going to be teaching for a while, but then I was also really interested in like the applicable, how can you help people with sexuality, and how much healing and empowering my own sexuality has like changed my life. So it was like, that's what I specialized in.
Yeah.
Got some certificates. Are you familiar with the Layla Martin program?
I am.
Yeah, I did. That's where I met Julia, actually. She and I were in that program together.
Is it called Vita?
Vita.
Vita.
I think. Yeah. The Vita sexuality coaching program. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So now you're the pleasure revolutionary.
Yes. I have a podcast myself called Radical Pleasure Revolution.
Ooh.
And I like to, talk about pleasure and how revolutionary it is, and how much, again, it's changed my life, changes my client's life. I think it has a big purpose in the world.
Yeah.
Pleasure does.
Absolutely. Well, I know for myself, finding pleasure, like I'm a super powerful, strong woman and I can do a lot and I'm capable of a lot, but without pleasure, I'm an unsatisfied biatch.
Yes.
I am so unsatisfied and things are dry down there. It's not a good look for me.
It doesn't feel good.
No.
We're not as creative. We're not as happy. And I think, honestly, I do think that there are certain things about the world and about like our culture that designed it to be that way, like the patriarchy,
right,
and other systems of oppression that are just like, they don't want us to be pleasure. That's why I don't use the word revolution lightly. It is a very political, historical word that means a lot. Like if you think about revolutions, like that's how countries were made, and like worlds were created and whole systems were made. And so like this is really reclaiming pleasure as a political spiritual, personal, like energy and like life force energy and right. Like pleasure is a human right and a medicine, you know?
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. And it goes beyond even gender too.
Totally.
Right?
Yes. 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 Every human, every living thing deserves pleasure. Like pleasure is what we are here to be experiencing, is like this growth and desires and our senses. And
yeah. Okay. Well, we're going
you
to,
get it.
yes, I 100% get it. And we're going to break this down for everyone who's listening right now.
Yay.
Okay. So what is it? We talked a little bit about what it means to be a pleasure revolutionary, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like you gave us that world. Why do you think people push pleasure away?
So I think, again, it is a little bit designed that way. We are kind of conditioned to not feel worthy of pleasure. We're conditioned to like go, 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 this like fast paced culture and environment. And pleasure does require us to like slow down and be present, like with our senses. And pleasure isn't even just a physical thing. It's like it's an emotion, like the pleasure of like seeing somebody super happy and you're just smiling and laughing together, or those conversations that could go on for hours and hours. Like it's an emotional experience. And I think people push that away because we aren't shown, aren't taught, aren't given permission to be that intimate with ourselves, with the present moment, with senses, with our erotic energy, you know, if that's a part of your pleasure in any given moment. Yeah. And I think there's also like this, you're seen as strong if you can, like, how tough can you be, and like how much can you endure, especially thinking about getting a PhD in academia. That world with pushed pleasure. Oh my gosh. It was like, and you were patted on the back for, you know, never taking days off and pulling all-nighters and burnout. Awful.
Exactly.
So I think that's why, you know, another reason, I think, you know, there's a lot of reasons we push pleasure away and we don't let ourselves have it. Because in my experience too, is it's hard. Like I'm talking about this stuff and working with it myself and with my clients, and it's hard for me still to remember like pleasure, especially in an embodied way. Sometimes it feels very like something I have to check off, like, oh, let's do pleasure today because like, let's do self-care today, or, you know, those things that we're told are our wellness, our health, but really embodying pleasure is hard and it takes practice. Like it takes a lot of, I think, intention and giving ourselves time to like have a journey with it and not be like, oh, I know pleasure is great, and then all of a sudden it's not a light switch is what I'm trying to say. It's a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle, and it takes time and intention and effort. And so I feel too, I work with so many moms, and I know that you're a new mom.
Yes.
And so this is a little off topic, but I want to just like, how do you make room being a new mom for pleasure? Because that is the number one thing that I hear from new moms or even moms. Like, I just don't have the time.
Yeah. Let me tell you. And it's so funny, even just that word time. I was literally talking to my therapist yesterday about this, about just this concept of time and how, as a mom, I have to give myself, like, I'm giving my child the space and the time. Like, I'm like, okay, this little baby is going to grow and be whoever they're going to be on their own time. Like, I can't push them, or, oh, are they developing fast enough? Like moms can obsess about those things of like, and I was just like, really compassionate and understanding. But I was telling my therapist, I was like, sometimes it's so hard to give myself that same grace of just time. And to me, there's so much pleasure when I give myself permission to slow down and expect less of me. Like, I am momming a 4.5-month-old.
Right.
And anything else I do on top of that is like the cherry on, like, that's just extra. Celebrate that shit.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm trying to run a business on top of, and I am running a business.
Right.
Julia would tell me that.
Yep.
She's my
You
coach.
are
She'd be
running
like,
a business.
you are running a business, bitch. Like, and to give myself grace though, of just like, things are slower. I can't put out the same amount of stuff. I can't see as many clients at the same time. I have different hours.
Right.
So right now, like, pleasure for me is like letting that all be okay, and then soaking up the little moments of like today, like I haven't put on lipstick. I think might have been my first reason since this baby to put on lipstick. And that's a pleasure, right?
That's a compliment. Woo!
Thank you, global turn on.
Yes.
You're turning me on.
Yes. Yeah. So it's almost, it's like you have to tune into those little things, those little moments for yourself that you can take for yourself, because all your time and attention is focused on this baby and not pushing him too fast and also running a business.
Yeah. Letting the timing slow down and enjoying it. And I think about that too when it comes to orgasms, right?
Yeah.
How we coach people and teach people to have the best orgasms. You actually enjoy the journey. You're not worried about the destination.
Right.
You're in each, piece of pleasure and sense and emotion that you're feeling. And then that leads to the best orgasms.
Yeah, exactly.
And to actually apply that to life, sometimes I think is super important and revolutionary.
Yeah.
But it's challenging. It's like, like to slow down and embody what we know, and to like practice these things in your own life. It's a process.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so how can people start to make room for more pleasure? We talked about kind of slowing down, and I feel that's key. Can you kind of talk more about that?
Yeah. So I think, how can we make more room for pleasure, including slowing down? I was having a conversation with somebody about this last week as well, around having like a cultural shift around, like, sometimes I think pleasure is seen as a luxury. I think it's seen as something that you do once everything else is taken care of. And not that there isn't some validity to that. Like, yes, like we need food on the table, we need clothes, shelter, things like that. I get it. We got to provide some of those needs. And also, I think pleasure is equally as essential as food.
Yes.
Equally as essential as housing. Like, what if we had a cultural shift that adopted that?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, I think it would help us invest in pleasure more, because it's true. You don't have the time. You don't have the money. You don't have, and not that all pleasure has to cost money, but I think unlearning and relearning how to like have a lifestyle of pleasure takes some investment, some time, money, energy. And what if it was as essential as food? Like, what if we thought of it that way? Yeah. How would the world be different? How would our lives be different? Because it really is important to come from that place of overflow and abundance and pleasure and self-love and self-care, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts?
100%. No, I mean, for me, like I said, until I'm a very capable human being, but there was always something missing for me because I wasn't actually letting myself like celebrate these moments, like absorb them. That helped me with my integration before I would go one thing to the next without like oh let me just be in this moment for just like half a day, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
let's like slow down, let's be in the moment, let's celebrate this thing, let's feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's unlearning. It took huge unlearning, and for me it's not all sexual, you know.
Totally.
It's like sometimes it's about touch, sometimes it's about connection, emotionally
Mm-hmm.
connecting with a friend, or
Mm-hmm.
like even having a FaceTime call, or you know, I have my feathers and
Yes.
like, you know, I'll just
For
like
sure.
or dancing or the things that make me feel
Good.
alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's all related to pleasure.
All of it. It's the root of it. It's like, I feel like love is one of those core ingredients of the universe. You know,
Yeah.
like love is like a root of so much of the universe. I
Yeah.
feel like pleasure is like right there with love. It's like
Yeah.
it's like love's sister or something.
Definitely. Definitely. I love that. Love sister. That's awesome. Okay. So, as I was kind of going through your social media, one of the things that I really loved was your pleasure scan. And I'm
Mm,
hoping that you could maybe give us a mini taste of what a
totally.
pleasure scan is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Ooh, this is fun. Okay. So, a pleasure scan is something that sometimes I start sessions with clients with a pleasure scan just to help take a moment to like get in the present moment together, to orient ourselves towards pleasure. Because sometimes we're not even noticing the pleasure that is currently available to us. And to just like get into our bodies, which is like
Mm.
where pleasure thrives, right? So I invite people to kind of take a few deep breaths, giving yourself time to arrive in your body if that feels good. And then I invite people to either close their eyes or soften their gaze. And I like to start just noticing the pleasure of your own breath. Noticing the pleasure of your inhale, your lungs expanding. Notice the pleasure of your body receiving oxygen. It's something it needs. And it's like, oh, that feels good to breathe. Noticing the pleasure of your exhale. Your lungs releasing the breath. And then we'll just do a real mini pleasure scan starting at the top of your head. You can explore with stillness, movement, self-touch. Really let yourself be creative. How can you notice or experience pleasure on your hair and the top of your head? Yeah, sometimes stroking your hair, feeling your scalp. Then taking a deep breath, bring your attention down to your hands. Start to notice any pleasure available in your hands. through stillness, touch, movement. Taking another deep breath. Bring your awareness into your groin, into your genitals. Notice any pleasure available here through stillness, movement, touch. Let yourself be creative. What pleasure is available? Taking another deep breath. Let's go all the way down to our feet, our ankles, our toes. Notice if there's any pleasure available to you down here. Through stillness, movement, touch. And whatever your experience of pleasure through your body was, give yourself a big dose of radical self-approval. Whatever it was, approve of it. There is no wrong pleasure or right pleasure that you just experienced or didn't experience. Notice the pleasure of approving of your experience. And take a deep breath. And that is a mini pleasure scan.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, it's a nice way to just orient towards pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the big thing was the approval of it. Can you talk a little bit more about like approval and approving of your pleasure?
Yeah. That's actually a concept I learned from Mama Gina. She's the one who kind of rang that bell the loudest for me of like, half of pleasure is just approving of whatever your experience of it is.
Yeah.
Because if we can get so goal oriented with pleasure of like, I have to experience pleasure this way and it should be these sensations. And if I'm not feeling anything, something's wrong with me or I'm not doing it right. And like, then it's defeating the whole purpose of the pleasure. And so the approval is just like where our power is, I think. And it opens up. It's like the empowered perspective of your experiences. Whatever it was, I approve of it. It was beautiful. Whatever it was.
Yeah. And like, what if that thought actually challenges what if what you felt in the pleasure scan kind of challenges maybe who you are or maybe a belief about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And then like to be in approval of that, like, ooh, that's edgy. That's so edgy.
Yes, it's edgy, it's rich. It's where the growth lies, right? It's those edges.
Right.
So, yeah. It's a beautiful
Yum.
tool. I hope whoever was listening enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you. I realize how sensitive I am. Like it's like I can feel my hair on my head without really even touching it, where my hair plugs into my head. And then my hands, feeling I'm a total touch slut, like full on.
Yes.
Love rubs, love connection, physical touch of all kinds, love giving too. That's part of my pleasure is giving.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that you bring that up. That's one of the number one things I teach my clients is especially when I work with couples, is touch for your pleasure.
Mm.
Like so often we're trying to perform or like give the other person like an experience or an orgasm or something. And then you get all in your head and you start feeling like, then there's all this pressure of I have to do something. But instead it's like, if you both showed up and touched for your own pleasure, you'd both be having a great time. You'd both be doing some like delicious, revolutionary, pleasure-based stuff.
Yeah.
And it helps them a lot to stop trying to like give the other person pleasure, but to touch for their own pleasure.
Ooh, that is revolutionary.
Yeah.
It's a little selfish too.
Yeah. In all the right ways.
Yes. I imagine it would slow people down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you actually end up throwing that sort of standard sexual script out the door where, you know, they think, oh, it starts with kissing and then this thing called foreplay and then a penis goes into a hole and then it ejaculates, we're done. And it's like, that gets thrown out the window because first of all, that can be real dull. That doesn't work for a lot of people.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. And when they just start touching for their own pleasure, delicious things happen.
Nice.
Slows down for sure.
Nice. Okay. I feel like we've just like jam-packed this talk. Yes. I love talking with you so much.
Yes. Thank you.
Let me ask you this. What are you passionate about right now?
Honestly, leaning into even more pleasure in my own life, especially because I have a child now.
Yeah.
So really growing with that and like wanting to practice what I preach at a different, at a new level, at a new edge.
Yeah.
And to model that. And for that to really become a part of our lifestyle, not just on the surface, you know, deeper, deepening.
Beautiful. So yeah, like your own personal practice and modeling and being a clearing for the revolution. Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, so what's your message for those people out there that maybe aren't feeling connected, maybe they're feeling disconnected, or they're just maybe having a tough time? What's your message for them?
First of all, I see you. There's nothing wrong with you. If you're feeling stagnant or stuck, it's not because you're broken. Like, healthy dose of radical self-approval again is a big part of the message. Another part of the message would be have a lot of compassion for yourself. Invest in yourself. Bet on you. Like, what would your next level, what would your not stagnant, stuck self do? And who are they? And how can you step into them? Like whatever to the person is their desire of not being stagnant. So maybe that's alive in their power, connected, intimate. Invest in that. Like I said, that it requires a cultural shift, and that starts with all of us. Of like, what if pleasure was just as important to you as food and clothes and shelter? And if you're feeling stuck and stagnant, then that's the way to go. And there's lots of people, like you and me, who are here to like cheer you on and support you and help you get unstuck. And using pleasure is a beautiful way to do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Get unzipped.
Go in. Okay. How can people find you?
Ooh, okay. They can find me on social media. On Facebook, I'm Emma Gone Rogue. On Instagram, I'm Emma_Gone_Rogue. EmmaGoneRogue.com is my website, and Radical Pleasure Revolution is my podcast. So those are the places.
Yay. Well,
Yeah.
definitely go find Dr. Emma. I like calling you Dr. Emma. That's so
thank
sexy.
you. Yeah.
That gives me pleasure. I'm like, wee.
Dr. Emma.
Dr. Emma. Well, thank you so much for being on Women Unzipped.
Yes,
and
thank you, LeahRose.
Yeah, we'll have you again for sure.
This was so fun. Again, thank you for getting me in my red fur coat and red lipstick.
You're so welcome. All right. Thank you for listening. This has been a Global Turn On production. I'm LeahRose Barber, your host. Make sure you check us out at www.globalturnon.com.